In this video series, we will introduce you to synapseRT NextGen by GoToGroup. This is a Jira add-on product for full-scale enterprise management of requirements, test cases, QA test management, execution of real-time tests, tracking results history, traceability, and reporting that meets the demands of enterprise-class test and development teams. In this video, I'm going to show you how to manage requirements for a flight reservation system. We'll start from a typical scenario using our application under test, the flight reservation system. Let's say we're working on implementing the credit card validation module in version 1.0. The scope for version 1.0 is to finish the code development for the credit card validation module and create test cases for these requirements. Here's the big picture of all requirements for our product. So for this example, we'll focus our work scope on the credit card validation module. Normally, a team needs to break down the requirements into small pieces and then even smaller pieces until they are specific enough for the engineers to work on. It's the result of this breakdown process that yields the creation of a requirements hierarchy, and synapseRT NextGen is the perfect solution to help you create such a hierarchy. Once you've split the requirements into small pieces with an appropriate requirements hierarchy, you're then good to go on to the next step, which is to create your test cases for each requirement. With synapseRT, you can create these test cases right from their corresponding requirements page, automatically linking them at the same time. On the current slide, we're viewing the user scenario. Let me show you how synapseRT NextGen manages these requirements inside Jira. We'll bounce on over to synapseRT now. Because requirement is a standard Jira issue type, you can simply click on the Create button to start creating the requirement. Make sure that requirement is selected as the issue type in the drop-down. Please note that you can map your own Jira issue types to the synapseRT requirement type in the configuration page for synapseRT. This can include stories, epics, or other unique requirement types that your team may have in Jira. From the synapseRT perspective, they will all be treated as requirements. Next, specify all of the information that's necessary for the requirement. Then click the Create button to finish. Once you've created the requirement, let's open that requirement and have a look at it. Now that we're viewing the requirement, you will see two sections. These two sections are provided by synapseRT NextGen. They are requirements and test cases. For requirements, we can see the parent-child relationship and requirement hierarchy, and within the test cases tab, we'll see the test cases that are associated with this requirement. Within the requirements section, we can build the requirement hierarchy. There are two steps you need to do to create the requirements hierarchy. Just click on the Create Child button. It will invoke the Create Issue dialog box. Then specify all of the necessary information. When finished, click the Create button. Congratulations, you've now just created a child requirement. Note that in synapseRT, child requirement relationships and parent requirement relationships are not Jira issue relationships or links, but they're managed by synapseRT only. So Jira has no reference to these links. You're now able to see this child requirement in the requirements section of the parent requirement issue. You can also link existing requirements by clicking the Link Child button. So I'm going to quickly create a new requirement separately, and then we'll link it here to its parent requirement using Link Child. Now let's link that requirement that we just created. In this manner, you can continue linking more and more child requirements until your requirements hierarchy is filled out and complete. And as you might expect, you can do the same thing to create, link, and work with parent requirements. Now let's open a child requirement from this panel. Click the issue key in the list to open a child requirement. Now we can continue to split the child requirements to even smaller pieces from this child requirement, which already has a parent. For the synapseRT requirements hierarchy, there's no limit to the number of children nor the depth of the hierarchy tree. For this child requirement that we just created, let's go ahead and give it its own child requirement. To do this, we just follow the steps already mentioned on creating child requirements. As before, you will need to input information, then click the Create button. And there you have it, another level of child requirement has been created. Now we have 3 levels. So in this way, as we've just demonstrated, you can continue creating all the requirements and child requirements that you need. So up to this point, using synapseRT NextGen, I've just shown you how to split larger requirements into smaller pieces called child requirements, and how to split these child requirements even further to give those child requirements their own child requirements. How to view, maintain, and work with your requirements and child requirements in synapseRT NextGen's hierarchical requirements section. Obviously, the next step is to create test cases. There are 3 basic ways to create a test case. You can use the Jira Create button to make an issue type of test case. However, if you wish to associate the test case with a specific requirement and/or test suite, you'll have to do that manually when you use this method. We will show you how to do this later on in a separate section of this demonstration. You can also create a test case from the synapseRT NextGen test suite. The benefit of using this method is that the test case is already associated with the test suite and its family of test cases automatically. We will show you how to do this also later in a separate section in this demonstration. And finally, you can make the test case from the test cases panel inside the requirement. In this case, the link between the requirement and the test case is made for you automatically. We will show you how to do this now. So moving on to the test cases panel, as you can see, each requirement has its own test cases section. Each test case may be associated with none, one, or many requirements. So as I just mentioned, for this video, we'll look at creating test cases right from the requirement that they already belong to. In order to create test cases for a specific requirement in this manner, we first need to select the requirement to which the test case belongs. Specify summary and other necessary information, then click the Create button to finish the test case creation. Once the test is created, the test cases will be displayed in the test cases panel under the requirement area. In a similar manner, we can continue to create more and more test cases associated with this requirement until the requirement's test coverage is completed. Now let's go back to the project summary page and have a look at the new project panels relating to requirements and test cases which are created by synapseRT NextGen. We'll see our data in there as we take a look. Project Panel Requirements is created to centrally view and manage all requirements in your project. When you've been working in requirements and you come back over to the project panel, you'll see all the work that you've done, and it'll be completely summarized here for your entire project. Similarly, you can create or click the plus icon to add child requirements for a requirement in this list, or link existing requirements as child requirements by clicking the link icon. So you can continue your requirements management from a global view here in the requirements page. There are a few more things you can do on this requirements management page with synapseRT. You can reorder your requirements in the list by dragging and dropping. You can rebuild the requirements hierarchy also by dragging and dropping. So you can move things around both underneath other requirements and sort of shift them depending on your project needs, because things are always changing. If you click on a test case count box, it will pop up a dialog displaying test case coverage information. If you click on the test plan count box, you're going to see the execution coverage of this particular requirement. Of course, you can remove the relationship between requirements just by simply clicking the delete icon. So we've now completed our short demonstration on how to make requirements with the requirements hierarchy and requirements with test case coverage, and also introduced how all requirements work in a central project space in the requirements panel. If you have any questions or are interested in a live demonstration, send an email to support@gotogroup.com, and thank you for watching.